So tomorrow night is the beginning.
Yes.
It is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump. And it is the beginning of the moment when we tell the billionaire class and the 1%, this country belongs to all of us, not just a few. So tomorrow night is...
Campaigns are making their final pitch. Today, Iowa caucus. We are all excited, pins and needles. What is Sanders going to do? All of the polling, all of the speculation, all of the, for 1 year. And it's like all of the agitation just builds up and just on that one day, just comes out. That sounds salacious and dirty. That sounds dirty. But the refractory period is going to be short-lived, seeing as we're going into New Hampshire. Look up that word. We're going to New Hampshire, and then Nevada, and then we get to states like Super Tuesday and whatnot. But Iowa is the thing that sets the tone. That's the thing that people talk about. They're jittery about. And so the first satellite caucus, Sanders dominated. Now, all of the satellite caucuses, and I should have said this in the last video, are going to be added up over the course of the night. These things are going to be all over the place. And then at that point, they can assign delegates and everything else. But the very first result of the satellite caucus went to Sanders. He has to do well everywhere else, and he has to blow them out the water, meaning his theory of the case needs to be right. He knows it. He said as much. He has to have more people there than everybody else if he's going to win it. Not just in the raw result, but the outright result. Emerson, in this case, has Sanders on top going into the primary. But again, polls lie. Trends are what matters. The trend here is that Sanders is rising and is dominating, but this is a caucus. And remember, with a caucus, second choice voters matter. Meaning, if Warren stays in it and her people don't decide to align with Sanders, he's not getting that support. Now, based on Morning Consult and even some of the other polling, you got 50% of people who supported Warren would go to Sanders. So there's going to be a probability of a number that will go to Sanders if Warren doesn't make her 15%. That's important. That's extremely important. Because Warren is the person who Sanders can get the most votes from beyond anybody else in the race. She's hurting him in this primary. If she was not in this primary, Sanders would be winning this primary in spades. The very fact that she's in it robs support from him. And I'm saying rob, and I'm only using that in terms of, because votes aren't owned, but it's just the basic calculation of a lot of her supporters would support him. And her being in it creates a drag on his ability to win it. He's consolidating support, however, meaning those people are going to him. Otherwise, her trend line wouldn't be collapsing in the way it's collapsed. But still, second choice voters matter. If she gets her 15%, that means that Sanders is not going to get those voters. If Klobuchar, she's not going to make 15, meaning those people will go to Biden. Steyer is the interesting one. I've heard people say, look, I like his environmental plan. If Steyer doesn't get it, I'm going to Sanders. So it's unclear how these things are going to entirely work out at the very end. But when I look at the chart, most of these people are just right-wingers. Or at the very least, it's not Sanders voters. And so he has to blow this out to take Iowa. Yes, he may win the raw vote, but keep in mind, the delegate counts. It was matters. I want him to win it outright. I don't want, I won the raw vote and somebody else won. No, I want him to win it outright. And it is possible that he can do that. Chris Matthews is terrified. But the polling result I want to go to is New Hampshire. Emerson came out with a poll today that is mind-blowing for New Hampshire. Take a look at this. And believe it or not, the most important thing in this poll is not entirely how bad this poll is. Meaning Sanders with the strong masculine arms dominating, shaking his fists at the other contestants in the race. Take a look at this. This is New Hampshire's poll. Sanders, 29%. Biden, 14%. Yes, you heard that right. 14%. He is almost barely in double digits. And this is not Sanders like just kind of getting there. He went up 6 points in order to be here. He gained 6 points in this poll from the last time this poll was taken. Biden just stayed even. Buttigieg lost 5. Buttigieg lost 5. Warren lost 2. Klobuchar lost 2. Steyer up 4. Gabbard up 2. Gabbard is pulling 7% in New Hampshire. Now, again, if Gabbard wasn't in this poll, a lot of her supporters would go to Sanders, meaning this would be even worse. I'm not telling people to get out, just with the exception of Warren. Warren is the problem. Yang, 7%, +1. Buttigieg collapsed. Here's the thing. If Buttigieg doesn't do well in New Hampshire or Iowa, Buttigieg can call it a day. Because every other state that he's going to go to, he is going to get bullied, and it is going to be bad for him, embarrassingly so. In this very specific instance, if Sanders and Biden are the strongest ones and Buttigieg doesn't get the 15%, call it a day. Problem is, those Buttigieg voters are either going to go to Warren or Biden. So, pins and needles, pins and needles. What's more interesting, though, is the inside of this poll. And that's the thing I want to talk about. Because I was reading this with a certain degree of fascination. And if your name is Joe Biden, it is with a certain degree of terror. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. This content is brought to you by you because these videos are often demonetized. We like to say even $1 helps. So, Emerson, Sanders taking a commanding lead, their words, commanding lead, grabbing and dominating, authoritarian Iron Man, Iron Fist, over the rest of the electorate, with Biden at a measly 14%, Buttigieg 13%, Warren 12%. Now imagine for the moment all of Buttigieg is lumped into Biden. It wouldn't be. And imagine all of Klobuchar lumped into Biden. And imagine, you get my point with the second round thing, I hope. So I'm going to just read this, or parts of it. Sanders has increased his lead over the other candidates by 10 points. Okay, the other things, but this says 10. Since mid-January, okay, I see what they're doing. Sanders has increased his lead by 10 points. Since mid-January, Sanders has gained 6 points. Right. Biden has maintained his support level. Buttigieg has dropped 5 points and Warren has lost 2. Continuing the trend found in other Emerson polls, Sanders polls very strong from young voters. A trend, yes. Among voters 50 years, he leads with 38%. That's different. That's different. But I told you, when The Intercept did that piece, they made the point that there was a swing of support up to like the 50 years old range of age that Sanders was not getting at first, to Sanders from Biden. This is why Biden has started handing out pamphlets when you ask him about Social Security. Mr. President, could you tell me about your Social Security plan? Yes. Sir, what's this? We wrote it down for you. Sir, are they muzzling you? Are they muzzling you? Get the president out of here. Get the vice president out of here. They just rush him out. They've muzzled him. He can't talk about this stuff anymore because there's people who work with Biden who looks at those polls and say, oh my God, you're losing their support every time you open your mouth. You need to shut your mouth, sir. You lost on Social Security. 38% support, followed by Warren with 13% support. Now, in contrast, voters 50 and older, Biden leads. That's normal. He usually leads where Sanders has like 5% and Biden would have some absurd number. But on this, Biden leads 24%, followed by Sanders 20%. He's only 4 points away. Now, you could look at this and say, well, wait a minute. This is lily white, New Hampshire. And there's not a large African-American contingent here. And so when you get to other places around the country, this is atypical in regards to the various states. You will be right. That's true. But the problem is, in South Carolina, you saw a similar phenomena where Sanders pulled into with like in 4 or 5 of Joe Biden, who was dominating South Carolina by like 20 points. Now, you have Lily White, New Hampshire, and you have Chocolate City, South Carolina. I don't know. I guess it's one of the things you have to see, because I do think there's an argument to be made that, look, this is a white demographic. In other countries, states, you're going to get a more mixed demographic, so you're not going to get this strong pull like this, especially if there are more minorities. Fair enough, fair enough. All I'm saying, in this very specific instance, the older demographic, elderly, black, white, whatever, was going for Joe Biden. And in this very specific poll, Sanders is pulled up before. There's something else that is utterly fascinating in this poll. Listen to this. Sanders holds a strong lead among liberal voters with 39% support, followed by Warren with 27%. Among somewhat liberal voters, Sanders also leads with 36% support, followed by Biden with 19%. Sanders also leads among moderates and conservative voters, receiving 20% support, followed by Biden with 19% support. He dominated all of the demographics from the standpoint of political space, where you are on the political scale. Looking at gender, that sexist fucking Bernie Sanders does 11 points better among women than men. So maybe that sexist charge didn't work. Maybe the Bernie bro charge didn't work. That's not going to stop them from screaming it. But clearly these women aren't buying it. When that woman went on and said it's sexist to support Bernie Sanders, they're not buying it. They're not buying it. They're not buying it at all. They're not falling into your identity politics nonsense. Looking at gender, Sanders does 11 points better, right? With 34%, meaning 34% women, 24% men. In congressional districts, Sanders leads the first district with 26%, followed by Warren with 15%. Asked who they believe will become the eventual nominee. Electability. Joe Biden has always led electability. Most were split between Biden and Sanders. 39% picked Biden, 38% picked Sanders. Now, what have I said for months? When trends break, you see movement within the polling. And one of these trends that Joe Biden has always had, that he could always rely on, is I'm more electable. I'm going to beat Trump like a drum. He didn't talk about policy. He didn't talk about anything else. In his mind, the only thing I have to do is beat Trump. And for the most part, Biden was right. The public, for the most part, said, well, he's more electable. But they also will make the argument that the most important thing is beating Trump, meaning if he's more electable and the most important thing is beating Trump, there's a large contingent of voters that Joe Biden is going to get, not for policy reasons, not for any other reason other than that's the guy that can keep the monsters at bay. But what happens? Tell me. When you no longer think he can keep the monsters at bay, or that there's somebody else that is just as viable, that you've started to see, that the media has started to acknowledge is just as viable, has a buzz around him, and you think, well, maybe he's just as electable. Biden's argument entirely dependent on this notion that nobody else would get the glow of electability, or that his glow would be that much brighter. The thing is, you don't need a glow that's as bright as you. You just need it to be bright enough where the people think, I think that guy can do it. And I like all of his policy prescriptions far better than yours. And I see you talking to journalists and it doesn't look all that good. You have a hard time in the debates. It weakens the argument of electability. That's my point. Is this specific to New Hampshire, or is this something that we're going to see in other states? When we start seeing the polling and we get the opportunity to hear like what the people were saying when they were talking, making their votes, I will be extremely curious as to how many of those people get into questions of who do they think can win in New Hampshire and Iowa, because I would wonder whether or not that's going to set the trend for the rest of the nation. If it looks like Sanders can win, and at this point, he's been acknowledged as such. And many people in 2016 thought Sanders could beat Trump. Now, a lot of people thought that. And because a lot of people thought that, why would they change that particular perspective in 4 years? Meaning, to make the electability argument, Sanders was somewhat bolstered by the 2016 thing. In this particular case, though, he has to convince Democrats, and a lot of Democrats hate his guts. And yet he had to expand the electorate, pull those people in, and get those votes. And in this case, in New Hampshire, it seems that he's starting to consolidate a lot of support around him and a lot of energy around him that it seems to be propelling, not just in New Hampshire, the trend in multiple states. Look at the polling. I look at this stuff every day. And you can go down the line, 6, 11, 5, 3. Like surging, like in real terms, surging. And in this particular case, New Hampshire, and again, this poll is not atypical. I can go to Real Clear Politics and show you the New Hampshire polling, even from the standpoint of the aggregate. Dominating. 26-17. That's the average. This is not atypical. That's the catch. That's the catch. People ask, why do you give such credibility to polling? I give credibility to trends. I think trends are important. The numbers only matter in as much as they dictate or show a trend. One individual poll doesn't really give you anything. You get 10, okay, now you got something. There will be some polls that are going to be dishonest. Those polls that are dishonest, hopefully, to some degree, get weeded within the context of polls that are less so. All I'm saying is they do give you ideas in regards to where things are headed, how people are thinking. And again, the trends. Those are the things that matter. In this case, this is not a good trend for Joe Biden. And under this model, at this point, Sanders is the only one that gets votes. I mean, if Joe Biden leaves New Hampshire with 14%, Joe Biden leaves with 0 delegates. Just saying. Just saying. All right, I'll leave this here. Like, share, subscribe. Kelly Hudson, the time is now. The time is now indeed, Kelly Hudson, and thank you very much. Lady Marmalade, hey Jamal, just shouted you out on Norva Media in the UK. Thank you. Thank you for the hard work. Oh, thank you, Lady Marmalade. I appreciate it. I enjoy it. All right, I'm going to end this here. And to be clear, I don't know if the 15% thing, I think it's a 15%, where if you don't get 15%, you don't get any delegates, which means it's not looking good for the other side in regards to getting delegates in New Hampshire. Iowa's a different matter. It's a caucus. Nevada is going to be interesting. If Biden doesn't do well in Nevada, oh man, understand Bloomberg is entirely in this race to stop Sanders. If Bloomberg sees Biden do well in the first 3 states, then Bloomberg may not even run, because in his head, Sanders is done. If Biden does not do well in those states, then Bloomberg will run. The catch becomes, does Biden get out of the race? If Biden does not get out of the race, then state after state that both of these two participate in will undercut each other and allow Sanders to win those states. If Bloomberg just stayed out of the race, Biden would have most likely got those votes. They are so terrified that Sanders is going to take it that they are literally going to essentially fall over themselves, which potentially may help him actually take it. The longer that Warren stays in this race, I hope it gets across to people that she is not your friend. She is not on your side. She has no chance of winning this primary. And yet she's staying in this primary. And every state that she goes into, she's going to sap votes away from Sanders. The 50% of the people that would vote for Sanders, but they're with her, sap every state. 50%. 50%. 50%. Can Sanders win it? Yes. Would he have a far better chance if Warren wasn't in it? Absolutely, completely, indisputably, yes. Yes. Like, share, and subscribe. Rosette Strike 9. Are they televising the caucuses? So yeah, they've been televising the caucuses. They're not going to get the official vote until tonight. And keep in mind, Iowa caucuses are going to be bizarre. They're going to be 3 votes. The first vote, meaning the raw vote, then it's going to be the middle vote, which is essentially the transition vote, and then there's going to be the final vote. So the final vote is essentially the delegates in the way they're partitioned. The initial vote is the raw vote. That's the first time that people vote. And then again, if you don't get 15%, you get to shuffle around. You get to realign yourself with another campaign. You better hope that Warren does not get 15%. Hope and pray to Krishna, Jesus, Muhammad, Allah, whoever. Pray to somebody, fucking Thor, Pray that that woman does not get 15%. 14.2, okay. Not 15. Not 15. Again, because if she doesn't get 15, a percentage of those supporters will shuffle their way over to Sanders. Now, the other woman decided not to realign, so that's possible. I'm only going with this notion that a percentage would do so. The catch is, what is that percentage? The higher that percentage, the better off Sanders' chances of winning this outright. Also, hope that he just blows this out the water. That it's not even close. That all of the modeling, all of the polling are going by the typical way of politics where they think these are the number of people that show up. And you have an influx of people. I mean, keep in mind, these people are so fucking motivated. If they were on Star Trek and there was a Borg invasion and they were trying to get back to Earth to make their vote for one Bernie Sanders of their particular generation, and the ship is shot up, the warp cores are busted, it's like flailing through space, and you're in your spacesuit and you're just beaming out of the ship. They hit your porter signal, you get diverted, you go running, you have Borgs chasing you, you've been infected with nanites, and you still make it to the polling location before your consciousness evaporates away in order to say Sanders. That's the level of enthusiasm that his supporters have. Now, if that level of enthusiasm carries out where you have all those people on the caucuses, then you will have a good day. Then you will have a good day. And I'll leave it here. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much.